Thanks for calling ABC Credit Union.
I just want to talk to a person.
For customer service, please press 1.
Talk to a person.
For locations and hours, please press 2.
Talk to a person.
To speak to an agent at any time during this call, please press 0 or stay on the line.
Welcome to CX Without the BS. Now, here are your hosts, Tom Milligan and Brian Nichols.
Welcome to CX Without the BS. I am one of your hosts, Brian Nichols.
I am Tom Milligan.
And we are so excited to have you on the show today, folks. Thank you for joining us for another fun-filled week of talking about all the BS we see in the CX industry. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and I love how you just put that, another week of fun, because, we put the fun in CX. Wait a minute, that didn't work.
It's there, though, somewhere hidden in the back end. No, Tom, you're spot on, though, because not only are we talking about the BS, I think we do like to have some fun along the way, because it does add some levity to, and dare I say, it's a little bit boring when you're talking techs and specs and features and benefits and that kind of fun stuff. But when we're talking about outcomes, value, that's where I get interested, because it's no longer about the really cool, shiny object. It's about what you're doing with that shiny object to help your customer.
And I think it's even more fun to talk about the lack of features and the lack of value, because I think that's where the BS comes in, right?
Yup, and frankly, some other BS is the companies out there who are saying that they can present all that feature, functionality, and value when in fact they can't. And that's going to be a sneak peek, folks, something we talk about on today's episode, because joining us today is the CEO of where Tom and I call our business SharpenCX, and that is home sweet home for us. And with that is Charlie Newark-French. Now, Charlie's joining us here on the show. He is the CEO of Sharpen. He has had a career in scaling up startups from UCaaS, CCaaS, and the AI space. He's been our CEO for the past year. Prior to that, he was the CEO of HyperScience, which focused on machine learning and mortgage processing. And he was also the president of the UCaaS player Fuse. He's also a venture capitalist. He was one of the early investors for RingCentral back in the 2012 area. He is British, yet he does live in the New York City area. So we're going to ask him about that. And he is also married and has a puppy. I don't know if we're going to dig into that, but it's going to be a really fun conversation. Charlie is just a great guy, really down to earth, knows what he's talking about, Tom. And I think that's the other part that's really important. He's not just talking about the marketing stuff, right? He's talking about how this actually impacts real customers in a real tangible way.
Absolutely. In fact, Charlie and I, even though I've only been here at Sharpen for not even 8 months yet, but Charlie and I actually crossed paths, 10 years ago.
Really? I didn't know this.
Yeah. So I used to work for InContact, which is now NICE, and my job was to form strategic partnerships, largely with UCaaS players like RingCentral and Fuse. And Charlie was he was at Fuse, and that's when Fuse bought Thinking Phones, and so Charlie and I crossed paths during that whole time period, because Fuse was another partner that we worked with back at InContact. So we didn't have a lot of interaction, but we at least crossed paths a few times, and then we kind of reunited because it feels so good. So anyway, it's fun to be with Charlie, and I'm excited to see how this interview goes today.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I love that you're doing some 70s, 80s song throwbacks. So good stuff there, Tom.
Yeah, I'm old.
It's okay. I'm an old soul at heart. I was listening to "A Power of Love" from Huey Lewis and the News earlier today. Like, that's my life. So
I went to that concert in high school. So
well, I'm listening to the concert on my iPod. So that's where I'm at. Do we even have iPods anymore? I don't know. I guess we're dating both ourselves here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's stop talking about old stuff. Let's start talking about some new stuff, specifically in the contact center space. And hey, maybe talk about some AI and all the fun stuff AI is bringing down the pike. So Tom, shall we dig into things with our good buddy Charlie?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. On to CX Without the BS with Charlie Newark-French from SharpenCX. All right, and on to the show. Joining us here from SharpenCX, Charlie Newark-French. Welcome to CX Without the BS. How you doing?
I'm good, Brian. Thank you for having me this morning.
Great to see you, Charlie.
Good to see you, Tom.
So, Charlie, we're going to talk all things CX, but first we want to get to know you, because part of the whole CX without the BS is to get rid of the BS, get rid of the fluff, and get to know the folks on the show, but also get to know the real behind-the-scenes stuff that folks in our industry actually care about. But first, let's get to know you. So, Charlie, who are you? What's your role at Sharpen? Why are you a British guy living in New York City? All that fun stuff.
Yes, Charlie, very good to meet you, everybody. I am British. I don't hide that too well. I grew up in South London with my grandparents. Moved to the US about 16 years ago now, and mostly because it's a pretty damn good country, actually. I enjoy it here. It's meritocratic, pretty advanced from a tech perspective, a lot of fun. I'm the CEO here at Sharpen, and I describe my background as a little bit of UCaaS, a little bit of CCaaS. And then 4 years prior to joining Sharpen, I was deeply in machine learning models, sort of building ground up technology. And that's where I learned the AI world. And I've been with Sharpen for a year.
So you've lived as a nerd for a long time.
Yeah, I was never any good at coding, but I was a coder when I was younger as well. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a nerd's a bit of an exaggeration, but aspiring.
There you go.
Well, elephant in the room, right? We all work for Sharpen. So today's episode is probably going to be a little bit more Sharpen centric, but I think what we're going to really focus on is where we're mapping ourselves out in the marketplace, but also why we're doing so. And I think this is going to really address some of that BS that we see in the industry. But before we go there, I just want to talk about the contact center of tomorrow, because if you look over my shoulder, I've had that here on my little placard behind me. That's Sharpen's perspective, the contact center of tomorrow. So, Charlie, what does that mean to you? I mean, where we were yesteryear to where we are to today and tomorrow, what does that look like?
Totally. Look, I joined Sharpen a year ago now, and I put a lot of thought into what I wanted my next role to be. I'd sort of worked in AI. The last company I was at was called HyperScience, and it was machine learning for mortgage processing. And there I sort of saw a lot of the advantages and a lot of, frankly speaking, the disadvantages of AI. And I sort of, at that time, was getting outreach from a bunch of folks, but I thought there was very little place that's more ripe for disruption than the CX space. And there's really a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, this is a huge market, right? We're all customers, and it's a huge market that's pretty poorly served. So I came up with this phrase, contact center of tomorrow, that sort of as a business at Sharpen, we evolved into our vision. And that is contact centers people love. Now, whenever I say this, no one shakes their head and goes, that already exists today. What a load of nonsense. Everyone's like, well, I guess, yeah, that doesn't exist. And maybe if they think it's nonsense, it's because it's just like so crazy to think that you could love a contact center. Why even try? But I sort of think it's just a very poorly served market. I got a question on one of these podcasts about 6 or 7 months ago that was like, do we need another CX player or another contact center vendor out there? I'm like, well, we certainly don't need the ones that are already out there. Something's not working out right now. So my hope is we're a youngish company at Sharpen, a little under 100 folks. My hope is we can be a bit more innovative and do things a bit different and create contact centers people love. I think you'll see a consolidation in the market, and the sort of 3 trends that are happening that we're betting on are obviously a move to cloud. It's crazy that we have to say that, but it is happening, and there's many advantages of that that the industry will see. Fast innovation is certainly one of the advantages. The second is digital. That was sort of going really, really slow, and I think most contact centers have started to catch up pretty fast now. For our customers at Sharpen, it used to be sort of 80-90% was voice, and that's coming down to 50-60% and sort of plateauing there on that trend. So voice will still be dominant, but that change is happening. And then the big change I have no doubt we'll speak about a lot today is just automation and AI. So the contact center of tomorrow is hopefully something that isn't seen as a sort of cost center, a burden, point of frustration, a sort of greatly disliked area by everybody. Hopefully there's this like sentiment of love, enjoyment, or at least like it's tolerable.
So, you know what, Charlie, I've got to tell you, I've been in this business 30 something years at this point, and I have to agree, we need another CCaaS player like we need another hole in the head. I don't think there's anyone that would disagree with that. But one of the things that I love about the whole contact center of tomorrow and your concept of contact centers that people love is literally our homepage at sharpencx.com. Contact centers people love, or at least don't hate as much.
Right.
And then the opening sentence of the next paragraph. Most contact center experiences suck, and they don't have to. That is literally my favorite line I've ever read on any website for anyone in this business.
And look, I'm gonna sort of spoil the punchline here. The question you like to ask your guests is BS and CX.
We're going right to the end here.
I'm not going to give you the full answer now, but I'll give you a preview, and that is like marketing nonsense. And I think like contact centers people love is aspirational, but we're also saying like, and let's be real here, that like let's just take one step forward.
And suck less.
And suck less, right? So we'll get to. I'll give you some great examples later when we get into it, but we're trying not to be a company that is just saying a whole load of nonsense, but at the same time trying to do something a little different and vision.
And if I may, Tom, one thing I just want to highlight too, Charlie painted there for a picture, is that we're selling futures, not features. And I think that right there speaks to why I'm so excited about the idea of selling contact centers that people love, because it is something that you can aim towards as a goal versus just checking a box for a feature or functionality. And that right there speaks to where I think we're seeing a lot of the industry going is just, and I know I'm kind of, we're already going down the rabbit hole of the BS in the industry, but like this is what we see day in and day out. When I'm going out and talking to partners or I'm talking to customers, I hear that they're like, yeah, I'm getting bombarded with AI marketing, or I'm having people call me telling me about the brand new shiny thing that I can get. Going this route is so much more of a, hey, what's your goal and how can we help you accomplish that, versus here's a really cool thing we can just add into your existing tech stack.
Yep. Totally agree.
One of the things that I love about, I think, our first episode, with Michael Del Signore, when he said, if I see another company that just sticks AI on the end of their tagline, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah. The amount of people in a 3-month period, the beginning of last year, that became experts in AI, it was truly phenomenal. I saw this great
3 months.
I saw this like great meme at the time of like, it had the x-axis was time. X-axis was time, and then y-axis was a bunch of examples, and it was speed. Had like a snail on the left-hand side, and then like a fighter jet, and then like people becoming AI experts in 2023.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
So I have a question about we going back to the need for yet another CCaaS player.
Yes.
See, and again, do we need another one? No, we just need good ones. And so right now there are some leaders, people can say Magic Quadrant, whatever. I mean, whatever measure you want to use to say who the leaders are.
Yeah.
What's it going to take for Sharpen to unseat those leaders or to join them?
Yeah. So look, it's a great question. It's one that I ask myself every day.
I bet you better.
Look, there's a few things here. Firstly, the industry has been relatively satisfied with a poor experience for a while. And I think the reason for that is two reasons. So you've got to counter these two reasons. The first is stability is just an absolute essential thing in CX. If you shutter someone's contact center, some people's contact center in particular, even for 7 minutes, you're basically closing their business during prime hours during those 7 minutes. And God forbid you close it for like a day or 2 days. In other startup environments that I've worked in, if you slow down someone's mortgage processing for like 7 minutes, no one really cares. No one even notices. It takes a day to process a mortgage anyway. Other industries entirely, like if Salesforce goes down, there's going to be a bunch of irate people, but no one's business is going under the water as a result. You're not losing direct revenue every second. So that just builds a degree of complacency or like risk aversion. That sort of idea of no one gets fired for hiring IBM is no more truer anywhere than in the contact center. Like you just can't take a risk as a CIO on like new risky software. So I think there's that. And then I think there's a complacency of everyone's just accepted this is awful. Like no one really has the aspiration that this could be something different. It's just treated as a cost center. If you talk to any CEO, they don't even want to know about their contact center. They just wish that it would sort of go away. And I think both of those things we're trying to change. So we're trying to, on the first one, innovate whilst having a insanely stable platform. And the sort of, I've worked in startups as a venture capitalist and then running companies for a while now. The sort of promise of a startup is no legacy code, fast innovation, and sort of unique points of differentiation. But the quid pro quo for that, or the disadvantage of that, is that it's this Facebook quote from like 20 years ago, whatever it was, of move fast, break things. And the idea there is, as you sort of innovating and constantly changing things, that the idea that something breaks for a little bit is totally acceptable. That's just the nature of rapid change. And in the contact center, that doesn't work, right? So I think that the way you have to do this is you have to have stability and then have innovation. And that has been our priority at Sharpen since I joined last year, certainly probably even before that. Of number one is stability. Don't ever like sacrifice that. That's just too risky. And then number two is innovation. And a younger code base just allows you to innovate a lot faster than some of the big guys can do it. Even in our code base, we see things that if we'd written different 3 or 4 years ago, would make it easier today. Imagine that, but it's not 3 or 4 years ago. It's code that's been written over 20 years because you're NICE or you're Genesis or one of these guys. That just makes it a lot harder to innovate. So I think you see us moving into the AI space a lot more nimbly than some other folks. But I think innovation is absolutely key, but there has to be, you have to give a very clear or authentic, genuine promise that you can do that, offer people something new, whilst also offering them something safe. And then the changing the second thing is just about very much about like showing people a better world. And here you've just got to see, this is the classic like startup profile you go after. Here you see people that are willing to take a bit more of that step into the future. We've chosen the mid-market, small companies of like 300, 400 seat contact centers as areas that might be a little bit more adaptable and willing to sort of take that step into the future. But I think for us, AI is certainly a big part of the bet, and that's been a lot of investment over the last year.
Well, let's also be really clear. The big boys, they don't want those 200 or 300 seat contact centers. Brian and I, every day of our lives, work with partners across the country who tell us how much they love working with Sharpen because of our ICP. So, by the way, I do want to switch gears for just a second, if it's okay, because if you were not British, I would have called bullshit on your last answer because you used the word whilst, and only British people can say that and not and get away with it. If Brian or I ever say whilst, you know that it's bullshit.
I have so many problems with some words. Whilst is one.
It's a great word.
Whenever I was out at a bar when I first moved here, water was a real issue for me. I'd be like, and there's no other way of saying it. Can I have like the clear liquid that doesn't have alcohol in it? The bartenders look at me like I was speaking a foreign language.
Water.
I also now forget like which idioms are British and which are American, but I'm an American citizen now. Other than words like whilst, I try to be as American as I can.
No, I think it's a great word. It's just, it sounds dumb without the British accent.
Nonsense, yes.
So, Charlie, I want to go back a little bit to something we were just starting to creep into. And this is the idea of, and frankly, this is some BS, right? Like the fact that there are so many contact center platforms out there and so many players, and yet the mid-market, we'll just say SMB for the conversation today, like that SMB market is so ignored, and yet they still need the services, the solutions that companies like Sharpen bring to the table. And just to echo what Tom said, I've been going out and talking to these partners, and when I start talking about CCaaS built for the SMB, their eyes light up. They're thinking like, this is a new way to bring a really important tool to my customers that traditionally weren't even being able to consider this. So tell us more about how Sharpen's now fitting into this SMB market.
Well, look, I think that phrase you said, not have access to this technology before, is exactly right. The sort of BS word that I'm sure Tom will hate here is democratization of technology. But
I love that word.
Okay, fine. I just feel like it's a little BS, but the idea is exactly right, which is these large contact centers that could spend tens of millions of dollars had access for a long period of time to stuff that if you're certainly if you're a 5-person mum and pop contact center, you didn't have access to. Like, you could just never build that. And it means that you can't compete in some ways against the bigger guys. You just have a cost disadvantage or a technology disadvantage that is very hard to overcome. If you're a 300, 400 person contact center now, you can arguably get better technology than you can if you're one of the big guys at this point. Like, you can certainly get cloud-based technology. You don't need to spin up a set of on-premise servers to run your contact center. You're probably able to take a little bit more risk by trying cutting edge AI and stuff. But like, that's the promise of like the cloud. It's the promise of startups, is that you give access to an entirely new group of companies, technology that they didn't have access to previously, and you level the playing field a little bit. I mean, what we're seeing in America, which is sort of one thing I'm not madly in love with, is just like very, very large companies getting larger and larger. And the more you can level that playing field, the more competition you get. And I think competition is probably a good thing. So we love the SMB space, and the more power you can give to them, I think that's a great thing.
Love it. I do have a question about that move to the cloud, because I started in the cloud business at arguably the first CCaaS player. I was at UCN before it became InContact, and then InContact before it became NICE. And so I've watched this business grow from literally zero to, whatever percentage it is. And it depends on who you believe, Forrester, Gartner, whoever it is. It's 30% of contact centers have moved to the cloud, somewhere in there. I haven't seen anything approaching 40%. So I'm going to stick with 30% right now.
Yeah.
So there still is quite a bit of runway, whether that's, 60%, 70%, there's a lot of runway. So what is Sharpen's plan to take advantage of that move?
Yes,
still has to happen.
Look, it has to happen. The advantages of the cloud are just way too clear, and it's no longer the case that you should be managing your own infrastructure. Most likely, some set of experts can do that better than you, and it's just not core to people's business. What are we doing to seize it? That 30% number, and I have 20% of my number in my head, it's even lower.
Yeah.
Firstly, that's just crazy. Like, there's very few industries that are selling enterprise grade software where that's the percentage. Yeah, there's no industry where it's enterprise grade software that's reached 100%, but like more on average, you're seeing 80-90% of these changes have happened. That number is different across different parts of the market, and we're choosing parts of the market that favor cloud, right? So if you look at that number in the SMB mid-market, which we just spoke about, that's probably more like 50-60%. It's just a more ripe space. They're a little bit ahead. They're starting to move quicker. But I think this just comes to the stability question a little bit as well, is people, if you think about sort of giving access to your storefront, as I sort of refer to it affectionately, you give somebody else access to sort of running that. You want that to be highly stable. And so people try to control as much of it as possible. Like, if it's going to go down, they want to be the people responsible, and they want to be the people sort of getting it back up. So I think it's about going after the right market. I think it's about offering something that truly is a platform that is better than they could run themselves. And I think it's about selling the advantages a little bit. What you typically see in the contact center is a cobbling together of different technologies, integrations into CRMs, integrations into back-end systems. We work with credit unions. You need to get into their core financial banking systems. And those start to get really messy. Now what you've got a world of some of that being on-premise, some of that being in the cloud, and somewhere in between a little bit as well. And so what you have to do is you have to create code that easily integrates into both on-premise but cloud-based software to allow people to move from the old world to the new world. But that's the way we're thinking about it.
Okay. We used to call that like getting the camel's nose in the tent, right? So basically just getting our foot in the door, so to speak, toe in the water, whatever euphemism you want to use. And and then we can expand from there. Yeah.
So, Charlie, we talked about something that we, I think, all agreed is BS right now in our industry, and that is about how AI is just flooding the marketplace and everything from a marketing standpoint. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more in detail. But
Yeah.
Sharpen is leading the way in some of the AI spaces, specifically, and this is the term we've coined, usable AI. And
Right.
I think it's a really unique approach to bringing AI that's practical, it's tangible, and it's built for this mid-market, this SMB customer. So talk to us more about what this usable AI tool looks like. How is it helping customers, and how is Sharpen leading the usable AI field?
Yeah, look, you can think of AI in the contact center really in 4 different ways, or 4 different areas. There's the first, self-service, or the IVR side of it. There's in the routing. There's then where we're really betting, and I'll speak about what we're doing in each area, but there's the sort of agent assist and what you're giving agents. And then lastly, there's the supervisors, or like crunching the data, quality management, all of that side. We've come up with, as you said, at Sharpen, something called usable AI. This came out of working, as I sort of started the call, in sort of grounds up machine learning proprietary models at HyperScience mortgage processing. And I saw a lot of, as I said earlier, a lot of advantages and disadvantages. One of the disadvantages at the time, we actually wouldn't sell it as AI at some point, because it was just that had a really bad name at the time. One of the example disadvantages I like to give is that people had to train their own models. So out of the box, you would get to 80%. If you wanted to get to 95% automation, you needed to go and find your own models on your own data. And the selling proposition seems so obvious to me. But the idea that people would sit down and train a model, like train their people to train a model, and then go through that and then see more, and then they would train it wrong, and then they would need to retrain it. It was a complete disaster. People absolutely hated it. So the idea that we're going with here, which gets to your usable AI, is how do you make this as simple as possible, as ROI friendly as possible? And so there's really 3 tenets of usable AI, which is, first, it has to be fast time to value. There's just amazing software out there right now. There's no need for science experiments. Let somebody else go and do the science experiments while you're rolling out stuff that just works today on high value use cases. So you can think of this as low hanging fruit. It's just that low hanging fruit right now. There's some super interesting stuff. The second thing is it has to be easy to use. So I'm a big believer that good AI, you don't need any upskilling. People talk about upskilling. You just got to take that away from people entirely. And if you think about the internet, we all engage with the internet today. Every single day, we go to websites, we buy stuff, we send emails, we do video chats like this, but we have no idea of how the internet works. Most of us, anyway. Most of us couldn't even code on top of the internet. But it's been made so easy to interact with the internet that there was no real upskilling needed, or it felt like very seamless. And that's what we think here. So one of the first areas, it's table stakes at this point, but that we tell people to roll out AI is summarization of interactions after they happen. That is immediate value add. Technology is great. No upskilling required. And then the third tenet is it's compliance friendly. So when you think about the contact center, I think everybody, and this sort of gets to a little bit to the BS in the contact center. I think if you'd asked a year ago, as I was telling sort of a lot of people that I was moving into this space, they were predicting that agents would be gone basically by today. Seriously, the conversations I got in a year ago was just so frustrating. So I was like, I kind of know where we're going. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty certain on this. And a lot of people were just saying very different things. We now have more contact center agents in the US today than we did with the day ChatGPT sort of got mass market. I don't think that trend's on a giant tear. It's not great. It's growing at 1 or 2%. I think it does come down over time. But I think that the self-service portion is not usable AI. It is not fast to deploy. It requires a hell of a lot of upskilling, because you've got to do a lot of training on custom data, and it's certainly not compliance friendly. It's too risky. It's absolutely the future. We're not resisting it in any way. We're not Luddites, but we think there's much more sort of fruitful areas to go after first, whilst you start to roll that out in a sort of as risk-free a way as possible. So that's sort of how we're thinking about AI.
Hey, really quick, Tom, just wanted to call out one thing that Charlie raised up there, and that is the idea that the contact center agents were going to be completely replaced by AI. I mean, this was what we were hearing in all these industries. I remember listening to a podcast a few days ago, and they were talking about how the vision was that all radiologists would just be replaced with AI. And what's happening? Now it's the radiologists with AI, and they're flooding the marketplace because it's going to help them do better. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here, is that AI is not replacing contact center agents. It's helping improve the contact center agents that are already there. And then it's empowering companies to now bring more agents on because they don't need as much coaching or training to help them be successful. They can, I mean, I'm not going to say they can sit down and start answering calls right away and be 100%, but it's going to be way better than where they were beforehand.
Yeah, look, and two things here, Brian. Firstly, we pretty categorically know at this point from our experience that AI brings low-performing agents. That might just be a new agent that's just started up to the level of a high-performing agent, which might just be a highly tenured agent. So that sort of, if you work with AI, you're going to do your job better, is just definitely true. And the other thing here is, I was asked this, as it came up on another one of these discussions before, but how do you sell against to your employees, like them putting themselves out of a job? And the thing that I sort of say here is, and it gets to your point of like radiologists who work with AI versus radiologists who don't, jobs aren't going away anytime soon. I actually think it's going to be a phenomenal world if we can figure government out in 50 years' time when we don't all have to work, but we're not there yet. For a long time, we still have to go to the coal mill every day. But if you are a contact center agent, if you are any person in the world, like even in my role, whatever it is, if you're somebody that understands and uses AI, your career is just much more set for the next 5 to 10 years. And so that's what I encourage people to talk to their teams about, which is like, we're giving a skill set which is just going to be highly valuable out in the market for at least 10 years, in my opinion. I think probably longer than that, but maybe we'll have more change.
Can I take a second and challenge both of you and ask a question?
Yeah.
One piece of our usable AI, in fact, a big piece of our usable AI here at Sharpen, is the summarization of contacts. So if I'm working in, say, a tech support or a customer service contact center where I have to spend 2 or 3 minutes at the end of every call summarizing the call with notes,
yeah,
you take Sharpen's usable AI, those notes, the summarization is handled almost 100%, 99% with technology within seconds. So I've just eliminated 2 minutes or so, let's say 2 minutes after every single phone call.
Yeah.
Over the course of an 8-hour day. That means that I can probably handle, at least a few extra contacts.
Yeah.
Which means I need fewer agents.
You need fewer people, totally. So the logical math says that. And then when you see it in the market, it's just not true. And in the radiologist example is one that I love. This is one that Brian and I have spoken about before. But this was 12 years ago. Everybody in the market, there was a revolution similar to we've had with large language models in image detection. And that allowed cancers to be detected by AI far better than people. The prediction was by today, by everybody that was speaking about it, that radiologists, there would be no radiologists. And now we have more radiologists. And the thing here is just people have an insatiable appetite for more. Like, we want to be have a much better healthcare. We want to be scanned more often. We want to be damn sure that scan was right. We want to talk to somebody about it. Our thirst for more in any industry just continues. And so these changes take a lot longer than you think. And that last mile there's just a lot of demand for that. So in a lot of our customers, they're building in their ROI, like taking down headcount. When they get out there and they see the reality, they see that actually this is one of our customers in the direct-to-consumer space. They see that there's just new demands for the contact center. So in this one company I'm going to refer to, I won't name them because they're sort of going through an agent shift, but they were just dealing with complaints, returns, and issues. And now their contact center is actually taking orders for new D2C products. And so they've actually just repositioned that team into a revenue generating area. There's other metrics you can increase at the same time, like average handling time, wait times. So you can just probably use the same group of people to get a much better outcome. What you also have to remember here, though, as well, is you have, when the great change does come, it's going to feel a lot less painful than we think, because you have such high turnover in these industries anyway. Attrition rates are about 50%. So you can typically manage, if there is a big change to be had, you can typically manage that with the people that want to stay, really like their job, that you're sort of giving good opportunity to. There's a role for them for a long time. That's 50%. That they're changing jobs every 2 years. And then for folks that aren't working out for one reason or another, they don't like their job, they're not able to perform, it won't feel like there's not a mass firing coming in the next like 2 or 3 years.
I would agree. By the way, I managed contact centers for years before I ever got into the supplier or the vendor side. and it's true, about half of your agents stick around forever. It's the other half that turn over more than 100%. So you know, this half stays at 0% turnover. This half stays at like 200%, and that's where you get that average of 50%. It's kind of a crazy.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's very binary. You're totally right. Yeah.
Hey, Tom, by the way, I mean, this is like same church, but very, very different pew. Like, my family was a family of farmers, and this just feels like another iteration of like technology is going to change the way all industries work. I mean, it used to be we'd have like dozens of hired hands on the farm, and then when the farm closed in the 90s, we had like maybe 5, because the work that was being done by multiple hands is now being done by machinery and automation. So like, that speaks to, I think, not just where our industry is going, it's just where industries in general go as technology improves. I mean, you go all the way back to the advent of the car replacing horse and buggy, and everybody thinking, oh my God, the end of the world. I think I just saw a scare article from like the 1900s of the looming electrical renaissance, and they had like a picture of all these electrical lines zapping people in New York City because the perception was electricity is going to doom us. And here we are. Electricity is literally a foundational part of our society. So it speaks to how technology is scary when it first enters into the market, but inevitably it's going to help make our lives easier. We start to incorporate into things we already are doing to help us do it better, and it's a natural progression of how things go. So I thought it was really cool to see those parallels.
I agree. I think that's great.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie, you know what time it is. And you kind of hinted at it earlier. So here at CX, without the BS, we try to identify the one piece of BS, the biggest piece of BS that you've seen in our industry. And you hinted at it. It's something with regards to the marketing fluff we see out there. So talk to us more about that piece of BS.
Totally. Look, it's marketing nonsense, marketing fluff, people saying things that are absolutely not true, people not saying things that are absolutely true. I've always been frustrated with this, but I think in the CX industry, we do it particularly bad, or we do it to an extreme that isn't seen elsewhere. So when I was a venture capitalist, I would go on and look at a company's website, and I would have no idea, just consistently 100% of the time. It would take me like half an hour to figure out what the hell they did. Like, from their homepage, I'd be like, okay, so what does this company do? The one that really got me at the time that was very tough was I was looking at UiPath, which did robotic process automation. I was looking back at this. This was before they got really successful, like 12, 13 years ago. And I just couldn't work out what the company was doing. I'm just like, why does somebody not say what they're doing? Now, there's many reasons that turns out that people don't say that. They want to like pretend they're bigger than they are. They want to lure people in to have a bit more thought. But I've always been frustrated by this. I think in the CX industry, there's just so many examples, particularly now with AI coming out, where it's just extremely hard for buyers to know what the hell is going on. The one, and I won't name the competitor's name, one, because I don't like to give air to any competitor's name right now, but 2, because it's not particularly favorable. But one of our competitors out there that does this worse than anybody at all, and it's just anytime anyone's speaking to them, I'm like, you're just going to get a pile of nonsense from these people. But was one of our competitors said 100% uptime. Like, there's this idea of, in fact, one of our competitors called 5 nines. Obviously, that one's a known. Like, the idea of 5 nines in this industry is like relatively important and accepted, that's like a good standard to aim for. And most people, by the way, don't deliver on that. But for a 2-year period, one of our competitors was saying 100% uptime. And it's just that you can never ever promise that. At the time of now, with AI coming out, the kinds of things we're seeing how like the CX suppliers say they can do, It is absolutely not what they absolutely do. Is crazy. And Tom, you sort of said it earlier, people putting AI on the end of their website domain or on the end of their job title or something. But you go to some of CX or CCaaS vendors' websites, and you just see like AI just littered across the page. It's just very, very hard for buyers to know what's going on. At HyperScience, this is why we stopped using the phrase AI. This was my last company. When I first got there, we'd go in and we'd talk about all this like stuff that people would do. And people would say, people have been coming into my office and telling me that's possible for 10 years. And we genuinely at that point did have something that did what we said we were doing. But you just have to sell against like this whole load of big game that's being talked by people that aren't really doing very much. So one thing that I'm like increasingly suggesting to anyone that's buying software, whether it's CCaaS, AI, or not, to sort of cut through all of that nonsense, that I suggest people ask their vendors is, what's the low-hanging fruit we can go after together straight away? And there you'll have people talk very frankly, unintentionally, about what they actually do today. Because there it's like, okay, what are we going after first? And that's just all they do. That's it. Everything else is vision and is aspiration and is like down the line and might come and like cross your fingers. But you have to find sort of ways of cutting through and understanding what the hell's going on out there, because there's just a whole load of marketing nonsense, and it makes it hard for everyone to sort of have a sort of true conversation about what they do supply.
I think you spoke volumes right there, Charlie, and I agree with you. The biggest crock of shit that I've heard, I think I agree with you now. I mean, I've agreed with every guest we've had, and every one of them gets better and better. So yeah, that's the biggest crock of shit, is the fact that you can go to websites. Yeah. It takes you half an hour to figure out what the hell they even do. So why do they have a website at that point? Totally. And I love what you just said. What's the low hanging fruit, basically? You know, what can you deliver right now that's going to help me? Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
And meet people where they're at, right? Like it's one thing to present the new solution, the new shiny tool or feature, but if it's not practical and it's not really relevant to where your customer is right now, what does it really matter, right? And I think that speaks volumes, because, and here we'll go full circle to Sharpen. That's why I'm such a big fan of where we are right now in the market, bringing usable AI in the contact center to the SMB. I mean, that is exactly where the demand is, where people are looking for that innovation, and where Sharpen's ringing the bell. So exciting stuff for the prospects of Sharpen. Charlie Newark-French, thank you for joining us. Folks, if you want to learn more about Sharpen, Charlie, where can they go ahead and check you guys out? Check us out.
Yeah, go to sharpencx.com. You're going to learn within 5 seconds what we do. There's not too much marketing nonsense on there. And I'm always available on LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to reach out to me. But Brian, Tom, thank you so much for hosting. This is always a fun one to watch, but really fun to participate in it.
Thanks, Charlie. Okay, that was fun.
Yeah.
You can see why we like our jobs.
Yes, Charlie is awesome. Just awesome human being. He's a good person too. And I think we've seen for our guests, Tom, that's a recurring theme, is that we like to do business with just good people and have good people in our ecosystem.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Charlie brings, he, like you said, not only is he a good person, but he surrounds himself with a whole company of really good people. I wanted to say something really funny that I almost said it when he was on, but
whilst he was on.
So years ago, this is 25 years ago, in the early days of the CCaaS space. And there were only a few players at that point. InContact was one of them, and Five9 was one of them. And of course, as Charlie just talked about, Five9, conjures up the 99.999% uptime. And that was they called themselves Five9. And he's no longer the CTO, but he and I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to get him in trouble, but this is again 20 plus years ago. And we were sitting there at a trade show talking one day, and we used to get their customers all the time because let's just say they weren't hitting the Five9 uptime number.
Kind of important for the name.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were sitting there at this trade show talking, and we'd become friends over the years. And I said, dude, I love how bad you guys suck at uptime, because I get all your customers. And he goes, yeah, if we don't fix it, we're going to have to change our name from 5.9 to 9.5s. I thought that was the greatest. I thought that was just funny. Now, again, I think 5.9 is a great company. They've come, obviously in the 20 plus years since then.
Oh, yeah.
They've come a million miles. I love Mike Berkland. He's a great CEO. So yeah, I have no qualms with 5.9 other than they're a competitor of ours. But anyway, I just thought that was hilarious.
Well, and Tom, really quick, I just want to highlight something, right? And this kind of speaks to the theme of today's episode, is that Sharpen is a very, I'm not going to say, I will say we are a niche player, right? We are CCaaS for the SMB, usable AI. Like, we are not pretending, and this is my Sharpen hat on literally right now. We're not pretending we're a 5,000 seat contact center company, right? That's just not our role. Now, could we do it? Yeah. But are we going to add the value that we can truly add to that SMB customer? Absolutely not. So I think it speaks to not so much 5.9 being competition, more as 5.9 they have a different role in a different lane for a different vertical and different customer base. And that's okay. Like, they can go and crush it in that space all day long. We're going to crush it in the CCaaS for SMB space. And that speaks to, I think, why this conversation and why CX without the BS is so crucial, because you see it, and Charlie hit the nail on the head, right? You have so many providers who they spew marketing nonsense, marketing bullshit, saying we can do everything for everybody, no questions asked. And that's just not true, because if you're trying to be a solution for everyone, guess what? You're a solution for no one. And that is, in my book, a load of BS. But I digress.
Yeah. And in fact, the company that Charlie was referring to, which again shall go unnamed, it'll be the Voldemort of today's show. So we'll just call him Voldemort. The Voldemort CCaaS player, they 100% uptime. And if you look at their website, literally everything is AI for this, AI for that.
It's overwhelming when you go to the website, because you don't know what to look at, because it's just verbal vomit of AI.
Absolutely. In fact, vomit is the right word. Just yesterday, I was looking at their website for a completely different reason. And I was looking at this Voldemort's website, and I literally sat there going, I kind of like vomiting, because it's like, it's this industry's AI and AI for that industry. And it's like, okay, are you a CCaaS player or are you an AI company?
Who are you exactly?
And someone says, oh, those two are interchangeable. No, they're not.
They're not.
CCaaS, it's contact center as a service enhanced by AI. It is not an AI product. It is CCaaS enhanced by AI. And anybody who says differently, that's bullshit.
Yup.
So there you go. CX without the BS right there.
Tom, I love these conversations. I'm looking forward to more of these conversations. I know we're going to be having some more conversations with other CCaaS providers out there in the future. But with that being said, folks, we know we reach a very diverse audience here. So if you work for a CCaaS provider, if you work for a TSD, if you're a BDM, if you're a customer, we want to be able to have a conversation. So please go ahead, reach out to us. Our email is cxwithoutthebs@gmail.com. Shoot us over, hey, your worst customer contact center experience, your worst CX story. What's the biggest BS you've seen in the industry? And if we like it enough, hey, maybe we'll go ahead and reach out and have you on the show, because we need to talk about the CX without the BS here on our program. So Tom, any final thoughts or words as we wrap things up today for the audience?
Only thing I can ask is make sure you're rating, reviewing, and sharing.
Yes.
It gets us out there.
All those things, super important. And by the way, folks, we are on YouTube. We are on your favorite podcast catcher. So please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, hit that like button. And of course, go ahead and tune in next Friday for when we have a brand new episode of CX Without the BS. With that being said, Brian Nichols and Tom Milligan signing off. See you
later.
Next week.